Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Touching Greatness. And this is going to be a great show because it's World Series time, and it's been 43 years since the Dodgers and the Yankees went at it. And we got the guys who are the voices of the stadiums. It's Paul Olden from New York and Todd Leitz from LA. Guys, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. Before we get into the series and your careers and all that good stuff, we got to talk about Fernando Valenzuela, the sudden loss of him last night. I got the call from Paul. I was out. I had not heard about it. Just your thoughts overall, Todd, what it's going to be like at the stadium tomorrow, and it's going to be very different.
It's been very different without Fernando in the press box. We got used to having him hanging out in the Dave's Diner of the Vin Scully press box every game, and he was a fixture. He's a huge part of Dodger history. The impact that Fernando made on the game of baseball and Dodger baseball in Los Angeles is incalculable. Just like Ohtani is bringing a whole new fan base to Dodger Stadium and to the Major League Baseball, Fernando did that for the Latino community here in Los Angeles. Not just the Mexican community, but Central American. And, you could say he opened the floodgates of Latin players in baseball. He wasn't the first, obviously, but he made a tremendous, tremendous impact on bringing the Latin fans out to Dodger Stadium to love the Dodgers, and now it's just become a legacy, a something that's generational, and he will be sorely, sorely missed. It's a very, very sad day in Dodger Nation and throughout baseball with the loss of Fernando Valenzuela.
Yeah, Paul missed the Fernando mania because he was leaving town, I guess, for some of your earliest gigs, right?
Yeah, Spokane. Yeah.
So what do you remember from afar? Because here it is, your hometown, and it's just, it was all about Fernando for a few years.
Well, luckily, it got lots of coverage, so I was able to vicariously follow along with what was going on in Los Angeles while I was up in Spokane doing play-by-play, my first regular play-by-play baseball gig.
Right.
And then, of course, I would come back to Southern California for the postseason. I think we were at the '81 series. Doing the play-by-play in the stands.
We were. Yeah, we definitely were. Yes.
So I do remember that. More recently, I was back home in St. Petersburg, and I came across a box. I have a box of photo prints. Now all our pictures, of course, are on our phone, but I have a box of prints, and I came across one of me and Fernando. And I wondered about him because we all knew something was wrong. He had a tremendous weight loss over the last year or so, but no one dared ask him anything, and there's none of our business anyway. But we knew something was up. And when they announced he was not going to be part of the broadcast team in the final stages of the regular season on the Hispanic radio side, and that he was going into the hospital, we hoped that they were able to find a cure or help him get back, because they planned on, it said in the release that he was going to come back in 2025. But we all knew something was up.
Yeah, exactly. Any personal stories, Fernando, that you want to pass along, Todd, that I know you posted something, I believe it was last night, how you had met up with him before you started this PA job at Dodger Stadium, right?
Yeah, that was the first time I ever met Fernando, and I was working with the LA Fire Department at the time, and I was in uniform, and I was having lunch at Mimi's Cafe in Glendale area, and there was Fernando with his family, and he had just been out golfing, and I had been going back and forth with the Dodgers, and I had a suspicion that I was going to be working with him, and so I had to go over and introduce myself, and he couldn't have been nicer. We took a picture together, and that was kind of the start of our friendship. And then when I did get the job and I showed up in the press box, he kind of just pointed at me. He was a man of few words, and he understood a lot more English than he let on, but he just kind of like looked at me like, hey, congratulations, felicidades, and so I always had great little chats with Fernando throughout the years. We often would run into each other at the urinal, which a lot of the broadcasters run into each other in the bathroom because that's the only chance we would get to have a bio break, as they say. So we would usually chat a little bit at that time, and so I didn't know him well. He was kind of an inscrutable character to some, probably to most. But I observed him a lot in the press box. Always surrounded by people, always people coming up to him, and always had a smile and was very patient with all the love that he got. So
right,
must have been an amazing life to be Fernando Valenzuela, and he did live an amazing life, and he's going to be greatly missed. That's for sure.
Too damn short. That's not fair.
63. That's
not good.
I think all three of us could relate that that's a little too close to home.
Yeah, well, I'm way past 63. I don't even remember 63. But one of the things that I like talking about with Fernando is our different interactions at the meal tables in the press box, because I don't know, probably 100 times we had dinner together. Excuse me. And one of the fun things was that Fernando, we would always talk golf. He wanted to hear, well, how's my game? How's your game? That kind of stuff. And depending if I was playing him much or not, but he played all the time. And Al Downing, the former Dodger and Yankee, called me last night and said that Fernando had learned to play golf at Montebello Golf Course, where a lot of the Dodgers used to play, especially back in the 70s and 80s. And that's where I bought my first golf clubs. So we had stories about Montebello. But one thing that Fernando used to do before every game, it was a ritual. He would go up and either get a hot chocolate or a coffee. I think it was mostly hot chocolate. He would take one cup in his hand, and he'd have the other hand with an empty cup, and he'd put the on top, and he'd pour it down like a magician. Like 2 feet below, he would be just, filling up the empty cup and going back the other way. He would do that back and forth, and he's, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. So anyway, one time I said, I got to get a picture of that. And he goes, no pictures, no pictures. I said, okay, no problem. Anyway, but he did that every time I saw him. So a great guy. One of the things that was a little unnerving was the last few times we had seen him. I've only been to one game this year, which is hard to believe. But Todd, you have been there, every single night, and I'm sure he didn't look the same as we were used to seeing him.
He didn't necessarily look unhealthy. He looked just very much thinner than he had always been, and you could tell that he was drastically losing weight. So there was a concern that there was something going on.
Right. And
then when he left the broadcast booth and we found out he was hospitalized, and we knew something was serious going on, but we were hoping that they were going to, find out what was wrong and treat him and get him back on his feet. But apparently that wasn't to be. So we really don't know what the health issues were. They've been very private about it, and that's what he asked for, privacy. So I don't even want to speculate. And
sure.
All I can say is we're going to miss him greatly. And we, in the broadcast, in my PA booth, we have a signed Dodger hat from Fernando.
Nice.
And it's been in there all year long, and it's been perched there. And it occurred to me during the, when he left the broadcast team for the hospitalization, it occurred to me that had been in there all year long, and it had to stay. So it's kind of a talisman at this point.
Yeah, exactly. This picture that with Fernando was taken the night he had his number retired, and he had a ceremony out there, which I'm sure you loved every second of being a part of that. And we were joking around afterwards, and then he's, okay, I got to go to work, which I think he always left in the 6th or the 7th inning. Is that pretty much he never stayed for late in the game. He was out of there. He was sort of like Phil Rizzuto, Paul. Like, wouldn't Rizzuto leave about the 7th or so?
Yeah.
Well, those guys had earned that right for sure.
No, I know.
And I never have seen Fernando as happy, as outgoing, as just fulfilled as he was during that entire period when the Dodgers really, really honored him in a beautiful way. he
Right.
became part of the Dodgers Ring of Honor with so many great players. And then, of course, his number was retired late last season. So number 34 will never be worn by anybody else. In fact, it hadn't been worn because they just expected him to end up in the Hall of Fame, but maybe posthumously. But the Dodgers, who only retire numbers for some people who've been inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, made an exception with Fernando and retired his number.
Terrible policy, by the way.
Yeah, really.
Well, you guys are running out of numbers, Paul. You're going to have guys wearing 150 one of these days because you don't have any numbers left.
If they wear 150 and they're all-time greats, more power to them. That you'll see a lot like 99. Who thought 99 was going to be a popular number? But
that's true.
Aaron Judge has made 99 a regular fixture at Yankee Stadium and around the country.
See, I think the next Babe Ruth number should be 3A. So that way, that's not retired, right?
Right.
They got to have to come up with something a few hundred years from now. Here's a picture I took with Fernando. That's the Fernando most people know with Oral Hershiser. We had dinner one night and we just took a quick snapshot. This is 20 years ago, whatever. He was so much fun to goof around with because like we talked off air and a little bit here, he was just a grown kid, just loved having fun and laughing and just joking about stuff. But anyway, Fernando Valenzuela, as Vinny said, if you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky, boys. Anyway, let's hear a little bit of Vinny calling Fernando.
3-0 to Lee Mazzilli. Fastball popped in the air, foul. Garvey, I think, has a play. And Fernando has his 5th shutout. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. It is the most puzzling, wonderful, rewarding thing I think we've seen in baseball in many, many years. It is puzzling because after all these years looking at this game, I know how tough it is. I know how tough it was for even the best who ever played it. And somehow this youngster from Mexico, with a pixie smile on his face, acts like he's pitching batting practice in Mexico and turns in his 5th shutout. He is now 7-0, 9-0 in his career, and he is the talk of the baseball world in English and Spanish and any other language that's close at hand. Fernando Valenzuela, and you bet he'll be on the postgame show.
One more.
Fernando ready, and the strike 2 pitch is hit back to the box, dribbling to second. Samuel on the bag, throws to first, double play. Fernando Valenzuela has pitched a no-hitter at 10:17 in the evening of June the 29th, 1990. If you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky.
There you go. Video with the call. How many times have you heard that call? Like several hundred?
At least. And it's great every time.
Isn't that a great call, Paul?
Samuel at the bag. Throws over. It's a double play.
Yeah, remember that? That was a ground ball right over the mound.
Yeah, tough play.
Perfect double play. What a way to end a game. It was like it was.
I can remember when Ben did the first English interview with Fernando, and that was a very big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember goofing off with Fernando in the clubhouse in those days when he was pretending he didn't know English, and he would almost wink at you, like, I know what you're saying. We'll get there eventually, and he did. It was great. All right. Anyway,
stuff was Fernando with his lasso. He would lasso guys in the dugout. He would
exactly.
That was fun.
And never forget the days with Tommy too, being around Fernando and he's screwing around with him all the time, pretending like he spoke. I love Fernando once said, I spoke better English than Tommy spoke Spanish. Nice try, Tommy. What can I tell you? All right, guys, let's talk about public address announcing and how crazy it's going to be in your stadiums. It's going to be a little different for both of you. When's the last time you did a World Series, Paul?
2009.
Exactly. And before that?
Well, none.
Exactly. So what's it like? You've done it once. Is it just like a ridiculous atmosphere that's unlike anything that you
Well, we
could?
had sort of a preview back in June when the Dodgers were here in New York and took 2 out of 3, by the way, from the Yankees.
Right.
And we were all kind of jokingly saying, "Hey, World Series preview." And as it turned out, it's true. Fortunately for me, I'm in a room by myself and and on right behind home plate, overlooking the field, so I don't get too caught up in all the craziness that's going down on the field or in the
Right.
stands. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And how about you, Todd? What's this going to mean to you?
Well, first of all, we are out in among the fans in a way,
Yeah.
where our PA booth sits. As you can see, we're out in the open air.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts, is the roar of the crowd. And Vinny always said what kept bringing him back was the roar of the crowd, and I can attest to that. When we clinched that NLCS over the Mets the other night, that place exploded, and the cantilevered levels were rocking back and forth. So I really love that. I love to be out there with the fans, with the feeling of the ball game, the sounds, the smells, the everything. And it's just, it's hard to describe, but it's a blessing. I just love it. And this will be, this should be the 4th World Series that I've had the honor to call, except for the pandemic one in 2020, which was in the bubble in Texas. So, I got 2017, 2018, 2020. No, I didn't take part in that, but 2024 against the Yanks. It doesn't get any better. This is going to be so good for baseball around the country and around the world. I know a lot of people think that both of these teams are the evil empire and so forth, but hey, money can buy you some great players, but money can't make a team that plays for each other and plays for the name on the front of the jersey instead of the name on the back.
Right.
Even teams that don't have names on the back.
I happen to like this Yankees Dodgers program here. 1953 just happened to be the year I was born, and that was going on back in New York. Paul, do they give you, as far as you understand yet, more work to do because it's the World Series, or is it just another game as far as the mic is concerned?
Well, we don't have we don't have pregame ceremonies to honor local charities or things like that. But the big deal is the baseline introductions,
right?
And thankfully, at least we cut down on the number of people that we introduce. We don't. The assistant massage therapist no longer gets introduced. And then I look back on last year's World Series in Texas, and I was concerned that the Fox TV announcer, in this case Joe Davis, was going to do the lineups, but the Texas PA guy did the lineup. So I'm assuming that's going to happen again this year, because they asked us to rehearse to come to the stadium early on Monday for Game 3 at 1:00 in the afternoon to rehearse the baseline introductions. And then the next day, Tuesday, to rehearse the Stand Up for Cancer segment that's going to happen in Game 3. So I guess I'll be doing all that, which is fine with me.
Yeah, sure. What about you, Todd? Is it business as usual, or is it World Series hoopla going on for you?
Well, there's a lot of hoopla, of course, and a lot of pomp and circumstance in the pregame ceremony. But as Paul said, we certainly have much more complicated and difficult pregame ceremonies during the regular season when we're, it's law enforcement night or it's El Salvador night or something like that. So
I had a couple of 5-minute reads earlier this season.
Wow, that's a lot.
And but that's typical. That happens every once in a while, but it can guarantee it's going to happen every year, that we have these elaborate ceremonies where I have to read for that extended amount of time, which is fine. It's kind of a challenge, and it's kind of fun to get through it without screwing up too bad.
Is that a New York siren we hear in the background?
Just the sound effects of New York City.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm walking down Fifth Avenue right now.
Little ambiance for you.
Exactly.
Oh, you don't hear too many sirens on Fifth Avenue unless it's over by
well, that's true.
A certain former president's house.
I got you that. Hey, let's hear from the sounds, the most famous earlier sounds of your stadiums. First, Yankee Stadium, the voice of Bob Shepard.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Yankee Stadium. Now batting for the American League from the New York Yankees, the shortstop, number 2, Derek Jeter. Number 2.
All right, Paul, tell your Derek Jeter story on how that actually was a blessing for you when they regularly played that, and you can actually get out for a couple of seconds, right?
Yeah. Well, the odd thing happened when during his last at bat at Yankee Stadium, I went to the restroom and they put a pinch runner in for him, and I didn't know I was away, so I didn't announce the pinch runner because I was in the restroom. And then when I got back and I saw, who's that out at second base? So that's a different guy. I said, oh, well, but then
it's too late, right? You're not going
to. Yeah. I'm not going to do it then.
Right.
But that was the nature of things back then when he was playing, and I had that little opportunity and hoped that the next batter who came up before him didn't swing at the first pitch. Because as soon as I announced the previous batter, I would take off and go to the restroom.
That's true. Do you have a favorite Bob Shepard story? Personal story?
Well, Bob and I used to have dinner together all the time when I worked with the Yankees back in the 90s on TV. So I got to know him on a personal level at that time, and he would hold court at his corner table in the media restaurant. And it was an honor, of course, to be among the 3 other people that he chose to allow to sit there with him to dine and talk about Yankee baseball and life in general.
Right.
So that relationship was maintained even after he retired. I talked to him on the phone once a month or so, just to hear his voice and to chat and make sure that he was aware that we were still thinking of him at Yankee Stadium, because he never had a chance to get out to the new stadium.
Right. There's got to be very few days go by, I would assume, that his name doesn't come up somewhere when you're in the ballpark, right? Somebody brings his name up?
Not really, but I keep a photo of him on my desk.
Oh, nice.
81 times a year, and plus playoffs. That photo of him is staring back at me as a general reminder to keep the standards of PA at Yankee Stadium high.
I love it. And there's a guy that I don't think that Todd has ever heard before, not at least live. Todd, do you remember John Ramsey at all in his history at Dodger Stadium?
His shadow still looms large over PA announcing in Los Angeles for sure. He did it all.
Yes, but were you ever there?
Yes, I have listened to him on YouTube and stuff, so I have heard his wonderful intonations, but yeah, I purposely, when I first got the job, I purposely just didn't listen to anybody because I wanted to, I didn't want to really, mimic anybody. And so I just kind of wanted to kind of create my own style. And,
sure.
And so, but as the years have gone by, I've gone back and I've heard his introductions for various sports and stuff. And he was one of the best, that's for sure.
I couldn't find the, the cleanest of audio that I wanted. But I have 2 calls here around Vin Scully's radio call from John Ramsey. And the first one I got for Olden. This is for you, Paul.
The batter will be Willie Davis.
Number 3, center fielder, Willie Davis.
And Millsap is ready.
For the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Maury Wills will start things off for the Dodgers. Wills batting .292.
Now listen to the organ here.
Must be Helen Dell.
That's exactly what I think it was. And Paul, going way back, how much interaction did you have with John Ramsey over the years, if any?
Oh, none.
Really? Oh, I thought you might have met him or something over the years.
I think we were on a passing hello basis, but
Got it.
did not know him at all. I obviously knew of his work everywhere because every sporting event in LA where you went to, he was the PA guy. And then if you wanted to take a trip somewhere, he was also the travel agent.
That's true. Good memory there. Is there anything you took from him at all, or is it just sort of you did your own thing too?
Just a general low key approach to sometimes around, especially in basketball, they promote screamers and cheerleaders and things like that. But both John and Bob Shepard had a very low key professional approach, I'll call it, and that's what I took away from John Ramsey, and also Roy Steele in Oakland was one of my favorite PA guys. And had that kind of great kind of voice that was conversational, but certainly not a screamer. Try to avoid that.
Yeah, the screamer thing feels more minor league to me. You guys agree?
There's a lot of it in the majors.
Is it really? I haven't paid that close attention.
Yeah.
So more than you'd like to see if it was your preference.
Well, each person, and Todd will attest to this, has their own style, and sometimes management encourages that, whether you want to or not. They want you to be a little bit more energetic, let's say, and if you want your paycheck, you go along with what they ask.
That's true. What do you think, Todd?
Well, the Dodgers have never asked me to do things anyway. They've never really said, "Hey, could you give us a little more there, or could you do whatever."
Good.
They pretty much have left me alone. So I've kind of developed my own style, and it seems to be okay with them. And it seems to be okay with our players too, because they always tell me that they get real jazzed when I announce their names. And I do try to find that little balance between the screamer and somebody who comes at it with a lot of exuberance, especially for the home team. But then when it comes to some of the reads that we have, I try to do those in a very professional broadcast style.
Good.
If I can. But Paul will attest to this as well, is that you just don't want to be a puker out there, and you don't want to be hey, welcome to Dodger Stadium, everybody. So, none of that kind of stuff. But I like to give big energy if I can, and then the rest of the time I just let my voice carry the message.
Yeah, I just want to quickly ask your thoughts, both of you, on the organist and how you work with them. If I assume there's some kind of chatter back and forth, the timing, and that's one of the reasons I brought up the Helen Dell. Besides the fact that I haven't heard that in a million years, and the way it used to be, for the Maury Wills go 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 cheer. Your thoughts on that, Paul?
I have no interaction with our organist other than
Really?
being pals with them and chatting with them before the game and walking to the parking lot after the game.
So they don't say, "Hey, I'm going to be doing this now," ever.
No. Well,
thing?
I'm in the organist booth that they used to have
That's
when
right.
when the stadium opened in 2009, but they're downstairs now and I'm upstairs. So I don't have any connection to them other than when I introduced them to play, take me out to the ball game. And once they inadvertently on my script put the wrong organist, and I didn't know who was playing that night. And I introduced the wrong guy, as it turns out, and he was very upset.
Well, not your fault. You can only read what they gave you.
Yeah. So we make sure now that just before the seventh inning, I double check: is Paul on the organ or is Ed playing tonight? Just to make sure, because I don't want their wrath. The wrath of the organist is something you don't want to deal with.
And they can play songs that you're not happy about too. They want to rip you. What about you, Todd? You got a chance to work with Nancy B., who was some of our favorite people, and now Dieter Rule for the last bunch of years.
Oh yeah, and we can see each other. We're me and the DJ and Dieter, we all kind of have a rhythm that we work off of. As Paul knows, there's this very specific clock in Major League Baseball that requires you to do what you got to do by a certain point. So everybody's got their little moment to do that kind of stuff. And being a musician as Paul is as well, and as you are, Mr. Bongo Player Ted, I have an innate sense of when the musical phrase is going to end, and boom, I try to, just come right in, just like you would in your radio cue or something. And so we work very closely on doing that. We've just developed that organically over the years, both with the recorded music from the DJ. DJ Severe is a great DJ, and of course Dieter Rule, who's a very inventive and wonderful musician. So we're all very close and have a very very tight little thing that we do. And I think it sounds good. I like to announce over a little bit of music. I like to also come in right when Dieter finishes his musical phrase. I just think it sounds really good.
Yeah, Dieter used to be in New York, and he knows our organist very well. So occasionally, whenever I visit you out there in LA, Todd, and visit with Dieter, he always asks me to say hi to the guys back here. So there's that kind of relationship that a lot of the organists around the country know one another's work and admire each other.
And there's also a brotherhood of PA announcers and a sisterhood as well. Renelle Brooks Moon, formerly from the San Francisco Giants, she's been emailing me over the past week or so. I just met Jeremiah Paparocki from the Chicago Cubs, a young fella that got the job at the age of 21, and he's already in the Baseball Hall of Fame because he was the first African-American PA announcer for that storied franchise. So there's, and Colin Cosell from the Mets recently reached out to me. So there's this wonderful brother. There's not a whole lot of us doing what we do at this level. And so it's really cool that we can share notes and talk and admire each other's work. I've always admired Paul, and he's been a fantastic mentor to me as a PA announcer and as a guy, giving me great advice on the ins and outs from his experience. So I really appreciate that. I love the PA brother and sisterhood.
I had to ask you about that name Cosell. Is that related to Howard?
I believe it's Howard's grandson.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and I believe they tag team it in New York for the Mets. They have a woman and Colin. Either they switch off games or they switch off innings, but you'll hear both of their voices at Citi Field.
Nice.
But I've never actually gone out there to watch a game. I'm not as intrepid as Paul in my traveling. When I'm not at the ballpark, I'm like I don't want to go to another stadium. But right. One of these days I'll get out there to visit you, Paulie. That's a promise.
Well, we had talked briefly, I think, last year about if there was a situation that presented itself with the Yankees and Dodgers being in the World Series, that we would try to switch off and you do a game back here and I do a game out there. But that obviously didn't gain much traction. But maybe next year.
Well, hey, then how about this, Paul? How about this? We've got a couple great delis out here in Los Angeles. New York City's got some fantastic delis. Why don't we make a bet right now on this series? If the Dodgers win, then you owe me a Katz Deli pastrami sandwich. The Dodgers win, you get a Langer's number 19 pastrami sandwich.
He's a vegan. That ain't gonna work.
Okay, well, we could do vegan pastrami or something like
that. Yeah, we can fashion some sort of veggie hoagie.
Yeah. Some kind of it could be pizza too.
Yeah. Okay.
There has to be some kind of bet, right? Don't the mayors of the respective cities always do some kind of a bet like that? So we got to do something like that. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
So it's the 50th anniversary of the first series that Paul and I'll say worked together. I don't know if that was much work. We were practicing play. Oh, I see. We lost you for a second. Okay. Excuse me. We lost you for a second there, Paul. 1974, Dodgers and A's. All right, there we were, and I'll show you some fun stuff from there. Here's one of the things that we took out of the press box area. I still had that in the drawer. This is 77. This one here, that would not be 74. Hey, hold on a second. Okay, this is 1974. There's our buddy Sal Bando. Tell the story, Paul.
Well, we just had him on what we termed our pregame show for our tape recording purposes.
Into our tape recorder.
But what was amazing about that was our general access to the field.
Yes.
The press badges back then were these thin little pieces of paper that were shaped like a baseball with a thin piece of elastic strip around it, and that was it. And we were on the field maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes before first pitch, in the dugout, just chatting away with people. But that was before security became a huge issue, and access became a much bigger issue at these stadiums now. It was a different time.
Yeah. So Sal Bando's the last guy off the field, Todd, and he was all-star third baseman for the A's that year and for a few years. Outstanding ball player, and he comes running towards us, and we were at the top step of the dugout, and I just said, "Hey, could you be our pregame show guest?" Even though it wasn't real. I didn't say it wasn't real. And he said, "Sure." I mean, are you a little surprised looking back on that, Paul, even though it was a different world then, that he would actually say yes when the rest of his team was already back in the clubhouse?
I don't think we knew any better. So I wasn't surprised. He said, yeah, I was expecting him to say, okay, sure. We hadn't been jaded by the subsequent years of being run roughshod over by players and managers.
Right. So it wasn't long after that it was the play of the series this is game one, excuse me, of the 74 series. And there's Joe Ferguson catching a ball in front of center fielder Jimmy Wynn. And he took the ball because Wynn had a sore arm, and he made an unbelievable throw. It's one of the great World Series throws ever at the plate. There's Steve Yeager holding the ball up. And who was out at the plate? Our pregame show guest, Sal Bando. It's one of the great ironic stories, excuse me, in the history of the World Series. Paul, we'll never forget that, right?
Yeah. Well, you know my memory of the 74 World Series.
Yes, whatever I remind you of. That's what you remember. And there's a picture of me standing at that dugout step. I took that a few years ago when somebody brought that up. I said, you know what? One of these days I'm going to have to show what it's. So they changed the dugout a little bit since 74, but that's pretty much the way it was. Top step. We're standing right there. Bingo. And we had our pregame show guest. What are the chances of that happening now? 0. As a matter of fact, I think we'd be in jail if we were down there 35 minutes before the game started.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They don't even let you in the clubhouse now at a certain time.
Exactly.
Whether you're home or away. So yeah, the restrictions are much more stringent now. And I guess because there's so much more media now too.
Oh, of course.
Back in 74, there weren't a lot of people, comparatively speaking, to what we see now.
Right.
And the way the fans were able to run out on the field in 1978 when the Dodgers clinched the pennant, a buddy of mine who I've been playing softball with for the last 30 years, he ran out on the field, no shoes, no shirt, a pair of bell-bottom cords, looked probably just like you guys looked back then, ran out on the field, grabbed second base. The front page of the LA Times the next morning had the team celebrating in the foreground, and there you see this filthy hippie reaching down for second base. And
he didn't get out of there with that base, did he?
He got out of there with the base. He's had it signed by several guys because he's been to Dodger fantasy camp at least 4 times that I know of.
Wow.
So he's got lots of signatures on that base, and he used to bring that out during the playoffs of our softball league, just to give us a little, little shot of winning from the Dodgers. So that's one of my favorite memories. And you remember Chris Chambliss fighting his way through the crowd after hitting that walk-off home run. Yeah. And you just want, or Hank Aaron being accosted and slapped on the back as he's rounding the bases after his 1974 home run that passed the great Bambino. So I mean, now when people run on the field, they get hit by a linebacker. They're taken down and they're in jail, and don't do that. It's not pretty. We had a thing against the Padres recently that was a real bad look for Dodger Stadium in a lot of ways. that we had to admonish the fans. And I remember reaching out to Paul and saying, "Hey, man, what do you guys do when something like this happens?" And because at the time, we weren't ready for that. We didn't expect that. And so I had to kind of wing it by saying, fans, please stop throwing stuff on the field,
Wow.
And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing this because it has some legal ramifications. You could be ejected, you could be arrested, you could be, hogtied or whatever. So we've since come up with this. So we appreciate your help there on that one, Paul.
Yeah. They gave us 2 pages of scripted announcements to make in case there's disruptions or something external happens outside of Yankee Stadium for the crowd to remain calm and leave in an orderly fashion and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we were, of course, in the last forfeit in Major League Baseball was at Dodger Stadium years ago. So that immediately came to mind when I saw that situation happen during the playoffs with you, Todd, and I wondered if they had given you the same script they gave me.
Well, we have a code of conduct that we always play before the game. So, but you know how it is. LA fans are still parking at that point.
Yeah.
So they don't often see it, and so we had to do some reiteration during that series because emotions did get high. And to be fair, the San Diego players were kind of goading the fans to a certain degree, and the fans rose to the bait, unfortunately. But there was some really kind of gesturing and undulating, and you guys probably saw that stuff. So, but you just hope that fans don't do anything to hurt the players. You certainly don't want to see that kind of activity. That there's no excuse for that, no matter what the players do out there on the field.
No.
So,
all right, just
I don't think we're going to see that during the World Series.
I doubt it,
because these two teams are very professional. Very, there's not a lot of bad blood between them. I think there's a lot of mutual respect. I really appreciated Aaron Judge's comments the other day about Shohei Ohtani. I mean, talk about 2 transcendent superstars going head to head. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You talking about us or the players?
I'm talking about us, Paul. But the players.
How did I not know that was coming? Anyway, here's my first Yankees Dodgers World Series, 1963, Game 1, which was the first game in Dodger Stadium history and in the World Series. Don Drysdale shut out the Yanks 1-0, and that ticket right there. See that ticket? I think it's not worth $12,000. I could say in those days it was like $12. Not bad, huh?
That was high for 63.
Yeah, and that was in the reserve section too. Speaking of 63 World Series, do you guys know who the first batter was in the history of Dodger Stadium World Series? Obviously would have been a Yankee. Who led off for the Yankees in 63, Paul, Mr. New York?
I don't know, Tom Trash.
No.
Rizzuto?
No, Rizzuto. No, he was probably in the booth by then.
Bobby Richardson.
Now you're getting close. His double play partner.
Oh, Tony Kubek.
That's right. So Kubek is my guy tomorrow. He's coming on with me tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll be talking a lot of stuff. Dodgers, Yankees, but he's also one of the iconic broadcasters as well, and he's got a million stories. So really, really looking forward to that. I wanted to bring up one more thing real quick so that people can have a little background on what Paul and I were doing in the stands. That's what we used to do, right, Paul? That was us at the Forum, me calling a hockey game and you getting ready to do the pre and post game. And Lakers, we would shift back and forth. I do a quarter, you do a quarter, that kind of stuff. And look at, they gave us credit on the Dodger Stadium old scoreboard there, Todd. How's that?
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we made up the American Sports Network, and then a few years later, somebody actually coined a network and called it the American Sports Network. And we were thinking of suing, but we had no real grounds. But we just made that up and had mic flags made. Green and white were our colors.
Yeah,
and we convinced the Dodger people, because we were there all the time, to put that up on the map. They might have done that after the game. Come to think of it.
I don't remember, but they did send us each one of those, and they did that for like birthdays and things like that for the crowd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for one more picture, that's our aisle in the second deck there. Paul and I, 10 was it 105? That
Yes.
was our user,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yeah. Section 105, right behind
Yep.
home plate, because it had a wall plug.
That's right. We didn't have to use our batteries in the tape recorder. Plug it in. We even knew the cleanup crew, so they let us use the one of the outlets there. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's the background on that. It's all good, guys. Last thoughts on the World Series. You guys got to be such a huge part of it, and it's the ultimate. I can't believe it's 1981 is the last time we're talking about. This is a rivalry. You don't do rivalries every 43 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Paul, do you consider it a rivalry at this point? I mean, it's a rivalry of two cities and two of the most storied franchises in baseball, but
East-West.
It's not a rivalry because, not like the Yankees Red Sox or the Dodgers Giants or even what's becoming Dodgers Padres. There isn't that emotional thing that there must have been in all the times that these teams faced each other in the World Series. What was it, 11 times?
Yeah.
Before this. So, I suppose that kind of creates a bit of a rivalry. But the Yanks sure have gotten the better of the Dodgers over the course of our World Series history. I think 8-3 at this point. But, the Dodgers have a few that they cling to. I consider it my birthright to be against the Yankees, although I have tremendous respect for the Yankee organization because I was born in '63, the year that they swept the Yanks in the World Series, and actually celebrated the World Series victory on the field at Dodger Stadium, which was the last time they were able to do that at Dodger Stadium. So we're hoping for that this year. Of course, you're not hoping for that. But and plus I grew up a Red Sox fan because I was born in Boston.
Yeah.
And so it was always the effing Yankees, who broke our hearts. And I'm sure, and I know it was that way for the Brooklyn Dodgers fans back in the old days of the 50s.
How about you, Mr. effing Yankee?
Well, given the Dodger history here in New York, they're still seething animosity on a good number of people who grew up with the Brooklyn Dodgers and had their hearts broken when the team moved to LA. In fact, right downstairs from where I live, 5 floors down, there was a supermarket on the ground floor, and there was a huge Brooklyn Dodger mural on the wall still that you'll find in several buildings, bank buildings especially, that have a lot of wall space. And they've devoted that space to remembering the Dodgers. So there's a rivalry in the sense that they are still mad at the Dodgers for leaving and can't wait for the Yankees to beat them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if those people at the store are rooting for the LA Dodgers or the Yankees in this series.
No, they're rooting for the Yankees to beat the Dodgers.
They are. Yeah. They still got the old sign up, though.
Yeah.
I got you. All right, no predictions because we don't have PA guys do predictions. What are they going to do? Predict the other team's going to win? Hell no. I'll just say go 7, baby. That would be great. With the Dodger rotation the way it is right now, there's no Koufax, Drysdale, Kershaw, or Fernando. And so, I mean, it's inning by inning. Good luck, Dave Roberts. You're the juggler, baby.
Well, he's
at least 5.
And keeping the plate spinning so far. I have every confidence that he can continue to do that. And the players are ready and they are together and they're not worried about any type of layoff. They're considering the layoff to be a privilege and a reward, and they're treating it as such. And they're going to be ready when the Yanks come to town. I can't wait.
Freddie Freeman is very thrilled about the layoff.
Yeah,
he needs it.
I don't think any layoff is going to help him this season. I mean,
it's going to help a little.
That's a 4 to 6 week injury, but
totally.
You can bet that he's going to be in the lineup come game 1. How far he goes, we'll see. But you'd have to, carry him off on a stretcher to get him.
And what about Ohtani going to New York, Paul? That a total zoo there, even greater than obviously what you guys saw in the regular season.
Well, the regular season and the World Series are 2 different things, only because of the ticket prices to get in to see the games this time around. It was a little easier to do it back in June, and the Dodgers and Ohtani certainly had their fans at Yankee Stadium then. It's a little tougher now, much tougher From what I hear, some of the face value tickets are going for $1,200 already. So
No cheap ones, huh?
yeah, those are prices that keep a lot of fans at home. But I think as far as the prediction of the World Series, I'm predicting at least a 5-game series. And Todd probably wants a 7-game series, so we can get the whole maximum of our games in and make that little extra postseason money.
Not a bad thing.
That's true.
Guys, enjoy the series. It was really fun talking with you. And hey, may the best team win. And if they don't, that's their problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks,
See you.
Paul.
All right.
See you, Todd.
Enjoy the World Series, everybody. We'll talk
I'll
to
be
you
listening
tomorrow.
Friday night, Todd.
Tony Kubek tomorrow, 10 a.m. right here on Touching Greatness. Have a great day, everybody.